Hello again. Now we will begin with a little bit of the lecture. It's going to be more of an introduction to speech science, and we'll see how we are with time. Maybe I'll go into the first lecture as well, the acoustics. But this is more of an introductory stuff, and I will share my slides right now. Just give me 1 second. Hope you can see it. We'll begin with a question. What is speech? So if we were in the classroom right now and I'd ask you this question, I'm sure many of you will tell me, oh, speech is just has to do with articulation, with production, how we produce sounds, with phonemes, with sounds, right? And especially if I ask you, what is the difference between speech and language? And you would say something like, I don't know, I presume speech is in languages in our minds, and speech is like the sounds and the phonemes, and language is more words and meanings. I hope, I don't know, this is kind of the answers that I've been getting previously. So that is something I encourage you to think as well. And at the end of this class, I want you to write a couple of sentences about what do you think speech is and how it is different from language. There are many definitions of speech. I'm just going to use this one by Stetson, who is considered to be the father of phonetics. His name is experimentary phonetics. What he said about speech is that speech is movement made audible. So what I like about it is that it implies the idea that speech is movement. And if you do not understand how speech could be a movement, how it works, you will understand by the end of this course. It will become clear to you that speech indeed is movement. There's a lot of movement in speech. Speech has three major arenas of study. The physiologic arena, or physiologic phonetics, the acoustic arena, or acoustic phonetics, and the perceptual arena, speech perception. What we're going to cover in this course is, this course will begin with acoustics. So we'll go over basic of acoustics and research tool for acoustic analysis. So we'll go over all the tools, and we'll go into deep into acoustic analysis. Not too deep in this course. We don't get too deep in this course. And then you'll have some labs. We'll practice a little bit in the class. So you will have opportunities to play around with acoustic analysis, and that's a good tool to have in your toolkit when you become a speech therapist. And by the end of this course, you will understand how you can use acoustic analysis in your practice. And then after we're done with acoustic, that will be like the first 5 classes. And actually, that part might be pretty easy for you because it will remind you of hearing sciences, I think. I believe hearing sciences or audiology, one of those classes, it will be quite similar to you. And then we'll go into physiological aspects, which also should be familiar to you because you took anatomy, so that will be similar to anatomy with a little bit of a twist, specific for speech, more specific for speech. And then we'll talk about how it reflects on acoustic analysis, what kind of things we can see in the acoustic analysis. And we'll begin with respiration because we will begin actually talking about physiology from the lungs. And then we'll go into our glottis. That's when we'll talk about phonation. And then we'll go up. So we will begin with lungs and we'll be going up. So later we're going to, after respiration, foundation, we'll be talking about articulatory and acoustic aspects of speech production. So we'll talk in speech production, that will be, everything that goes up. We'll end with the lips as our articulator. We'll go into articulators and cavities as much as we can, but not too deep because this is not anatomy class. We'll just do a quick overview. We'll talk about something that is relative to us. And then so when we'll talk about vowel production and consonant production, some of it could be familiar to you from your phonetics class, but it will be a little bit more intense. Like my one professor once said that speech science is like phonetics on steroids. So that's how you would feel, because it's way more in-depth than phonetics. And we'll end this course with talking about speech perception. So the speech perception, we'll be talking about the empirical studies, some cross-language studies, as well as infant studies. Infant studies are really interesting when you talk about speech perception. You'll see why. And then we'll go into theories of speech perception. Some definitions that are important. I'm sorry, I'm going to move you here. Some definitions that are important for us are acoustics, right? What is acoustics? Acoustics is the study of the physics of sound, right? That's something we'll begin with. Then kinematics is the study of motion. Why do we need to talk about the study of motion, right? Because, like I said, speech is the movement. And that's why we have to talk about motion when we talk about speech. Dynamics, the study of the forces that cause movement, because just like any other object that moves or vibrates, same happens with the speech, and a lot of it is a result of forces being applied. So we need to know more about those forces. So basically, it's very this concepts come from physics. The concepts that describe the motion, and we will begin our course with going over them. To understand, we will need to understand the basic motion before we get into speech. And then psychoacoustics is the study of the relationship between physical properties and our perception of those properties. So we will learn in this course, especially in the first 5 classes when we talk about acoustics, that there are some concepts that could be measured instrumentally, and they are undeniable, right? So it's like the physics properties. And there are some concepts that are based, that cannot be instrumentally measured, and they're measured by our judgment, by the way we perceive them, and then from there we come up with a scale. But it's never a measurement, it's more of a scale. And you will understand. We'll have the whole lecture on psychoacoustics. So what is a speech production? Because speech production is the major component of speech science. It's the generation of airflow and the creation of air pressures by the displacement or movement of bodily structures that result in the production of linguistically meaningful sound, right? So this definition kind of combines linguistics or language, I should say, with the speech, right? When we think that those are completely different things, but are they? Right? So linguistically meaningful sound, this is exactly linguistically meaningful sound. I wonder if anybody knows what another word for it is, and if you know, I might ask you on Wednesday if I don't forget. I'm not going to give you the answer right now. But if you know the answer, you can send it to me as well, together with other answers. But other than that, yeah, this definition does link together the language and speech. Oh, here, actually the answer is given away in the next sentence. The generation of phonemes by structures of the vocal tract above the larynx, particularly the oral cavity. So here's my question to you then. if we know that linguistically meaningful sound is a phoneme, why? Why is it linguistically meaningful sound? I wonder if you know. And then other important aspect for our study is voice production. We're actually going to be talking about voice quite a lot. So voice production is the generation of sound waves by vibration of the vocal folds, which are then modified by the vocal tract. And here I just wanted to give you this little structure. It's taken from the Raphael, and it kind of shows the connection between the speech and language, right? It all begins here with our thoughts in our mind, right? We have ideas, experiences, something that we feel, attitudes, right? They're all generated in our mind. And then we use the language, it filters, start with this abstract idea, absolutely abstract. And then we assign a code to them, right? And we use semantics, morphophonological rules, and syntactic rules, right? So this is linguistics. It goes, the ideas, the abstract ideas are being filtered through this language mechanism, right? And then as it goes down, right, it becomes speech. So speech is the mode for the language. It's one of the modes, right? There are several modes, but one of them is speech. So language is going through such buffers as timing. Timing is crucial in speech, and you will understand why by the end of this course. And then prosody is one of the buffers, right? Prosody and timing. And then speech is produced, right? And the result is basically sound, something audible. And when we produce speech, we take into account neuromotor rules, myomotor rules, and articulatory rules, right? So, and we're going to learn about those articulatory and motor rules, like myomotor and neuromotor rules. So, see. Okay, so here's my so this is why I say this, right? Types of measurements and client evaluations. So basically that answers your question, why is speech science important? You would think, why would speech science important? And a lot of the times you would be like, it will seem very mechanic, very physics like or anatomy like, and you'd be like, why does it have to do anything with what I want to do, right? The thing is, in speech science, we learn how we obtain what I call a normative data, right? So normative data tells you how something should work, right? So how something looks in the ideal world. Once we have that normative data, once we understand how things look in the ideal world, we start understanding the deviations from this norm. So as a speech pathologist in your practice, most of the time, you will never be dealing with this normative data. You will always be dealing with the deviations from the data. And for you to understand that this is in fact a deviation from the norm, you have to understand what the norm is. Because speech is a movement, it has multiple components. And when one component doesn't work, something goes wrong, right? So you have to understand how speech works in every detail so that you could understand that, that's the little component that is messed up, right? So you have to understand the normative data so that you could create your evaluations. And one interesting fact here is that we will be learning how to turn speech into numbers. you would think like, oh, wow, well, is it even possible? I will show you that speech, in fact, could be turned into numbers, and then numbers just, you can use those numbers for, for measurements. One second. I apologize, I got distracted. Let's go back to our lecture. So yes, so the measurements could be in client evaluations, the evaluations that you create for your client of the speech, right? They could be qualitative, so they could subjectively characterize components of speech, right? So you could be listening and making your own judgments and making your own report, right? And some of these components that you will take into consideration is actually the product of psychoacoustics, right? So the concepts that we take from psychoacoustics, the one that are based on the scale that you create as a listener. So some of them are pitch, loudness, roughness, or hoarseness of the voice. Although roughness and hoarseness, you can actually, you can measure all of them. But like I said, that will be based on a scale as opposed to a measurement. And then we have quantitative measurement, right? We objectively measure components of speech, such as fundamental frequency. We get a number for it, the amplitude, jitter, shimmer, etc. And both of those play an important role in a treatment planning in speech language pathology. And however, clinicians tend to feel more comfortable with qualitative measures. So in most of the time, we as scientists, speech scientists, we only use the quantitative measures. We turn speech into numbers and we do our statistical analysis, and we analyze this huge. It's so funny when I do my research and I just look at this Excel full of numbers, and I'm like, this used to be speech and now it's just numbers. So yes, but in your practice, you will mostly use your own judgment as a listener. And so, how about instrumentation in clinical practice? This semester, I'm going to try. It's not in the syllabus. There's one part where we do the perception overview and instrumentation, but I'm going to try to squeeze in the full class on instrumentation because I think it's very important. But I will be talking about instrumentation throughout classes. So what kind of instruments could you use in your practice, right? You can use acoustic analysis, right? And that way you can get quantitative data. Acoustic analysis allows you to turn speech into numbers and turn it into a data about the properties of the voice, such as average amplitude, average jitter, and so on and so forth. And then you compare the client's output against the normative data. Like I said, in this class, we're mostly going to be talking about the normative data. And once you have that in mind, and I will be pointing out to you, these are the normative data. This is where you look for the numbers. Once you have the idea what the averages are like for an average speaker, right? You will have that idea how much it is deviated, like your client's speech deviated from the norm. So the instruments will help you to do that. And the instruments will also help you establish a baseline and track changes over time. So by using instrument, you can see how much progress somebody's doing. And with instrumental measurements, we have concrete evidence to back up our subjective perceptual judgments. Once you have your subjective judgments, and if somebody cannot understand why, you can show it to them by using the instruments. Okay, so this is it for our lecture. I think I'm going to stop here. I know online it's a little bit difficult, and plus we would have probably used 20 minutes to just chat and maybe get to know each other and go over the room with introductions, which we will do on Wednesday. So I'm going to stop here. And I just want to let you know, don't be intimidated by this class. I have to say a few things. This is a really intense class. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty hard. There will be a lot of information, and at times it will feel overwhelming. But like I said, if you just pay attention, do everything as assigned, do your readings, you will do fine. I give you a lot of opportunities to succeed in this class. My goal is for everybody to succeed. I'm not here to make you fail. I don't enjoy failing students, and my goal is not to make you fail. My goal is to make you succeed, because I know it's one of the last classes you take. So I want to make sure you do well, and I give you a lot of opportunities to do well. So please take advantage of that. We just prepare that will be a pretty bumpy ride because it's a lot of information. But I'm hoping that we'll have a little fun. I love speech science. I am very passionate about it, and so I hope you will feel my passion a little bit. And I always try to have fun with it. And there will be times where just lectures and will be boring, but there will be times when I provide opportunities for discussions and for interactions. So yes, we'll have a little bit of everything, and I try to make the lectures as fun as possible. It's a little bit hard sometimes, but we'll have fun. So the assignments for you for the next lectures. First, I want you to not answer. I want you to ask me one question about the syllabus. I'm sure everybody will have at least one question, one or two or three, whatever, but at least one question. If you don't have a question, that's fine. Sometimes you just don't. Maybe I explained it very clearly, and so you don't have questions. You can just say no questions. It's fine, as long as I know that you listen to the lecture and you were present, and yeah, you listen to everything. And a second, I want you to write, in your opinion, what is the difference between speech and language? How you understand the difference. Actually, I came up with one more question as we were just talking about this. Why is a phoneme linguistically meaningful sound? And we'll make it an optional. But if you do answer, I will find a way to reward you for this. Okay, I wrote it here. Why is a phoneme linguistically meaningful sound? Why is a phoneme considered linguistically meaningful sound? And it's an optional question, so you can, like I said, I will find a way to reward you for that. And another question, so these three questions will be required, right? The second will be, in your opinion, what is the difference between speech and language? You can write one or two sentences. You don't have to write me the whole essay. This is just, this assignment is just for me to mark you as present, to make sure that you listened, you watched, and I do this, like last year, I also had to teach one class virtually. So I will give you 2% for participation at the end of the class for doing this. So because I want to reward you for listening and doing this. So in your opinion, what's the difference between speech and language? Couple of sentences, no essay. I don't need an essay. Unless you really want to, you get very inspired by the topic, you can write me an essay. I'll be happy to read it and edit it and give my opinions. And third question is, why is speech science important? I just talked about it. I just talked a lot about it. I just want you to summarize it for me with one sentence. In your opinion, how did you understand why it's important? In your opinion, nothing fancy, just like one or two sentences. I think it's important for this and that. Please send the answers to the questions to my email, emailrutina@gradcenter.cuny.edu. Yes, I will be looking for your answers in my email. Like I said in the email, you can do it at any time before Wednesday, before our class on Wednesday. And what else? And then for the next class on Wednesday, please read chapter 2 by Raphael and chapter 2 by Berman. And I will upload those readings on the Blackboard, so you don't have to worry about it. You just have to worry about reading. At least if you cannot do the 2 readings, at least always do the Raphael reading. The Raphael reading, the reason why I chose Raphael is because it's very concise. Alison Berman, her book gives a lot of detail, which are essential, and you should use. If you don't understand something, you could always refer to it as well. But Raphael is very concise. And I do recommend to do the readings. One of the complaints I got, and I'm getting my PhD, it's the highest level of education. And even on my level, students always complain about the challenge of the readings, that the readings are challenging. And that's the idea, yes, it could be challenging. So what I recommend to do, and I had students complain that, oh, but it's so hard, I don't understand what I'm reading. What you do is you read once before the class, then you come to the class, you read and you're like, oh, I have no idea what I just read. You come to the class and you're like, oh, okay, I think I start understanding that. And when you come home, you read it again. And then I promise you something will click in your head. That will click. Hopefully you can do that. I know it takes a lot of time, but that's the optimal way to do that. If you have time. I know we're all busy, we have jobs, we have people to take care of, us to take care of, our dogs. I have my dog to take care of. So I understand we're all busy and you have all this grad school applications, but that is the best way to do it. If you have an opportunity to do it, that's the way to do it. Anyway, I am going to be finishing here. Hope you enjoyed watching it. I can't wait to meet you next Wednesday. And we'll have a little bit of fun, and I can't wait to meet you in person and learn about you. Well, I'm wishing you all the best. Email me if you have any questions. I'm actually still traveling, so I might not get to my email until like Monday. Tuesday I will be at my computer for sure, and Wednesday I'll be with you. So if you don't hear from me right away, I might be somewhere transferring somewhere. So I'll see you on Wednesday, and all the best. Bye bye.